Hello everybody, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you to all my lovely panelists here today. I'm a professional trader. I work for a company called Arbitrade, who, if you put your heads very carefully to the side and to the left a bit, you can see the name on the car. We're one of the official global partners of Aston Martin, Aramco, Cognizant F1. I am a trader, but I'm also a woman. And I believe, and I hope you all agree with me, that gender does not define me. And it should never define me, actually, because in life, we get what we want if we just go out and try to get it. At least that's the way I think, and I hope you all agree with me. I work in a very male-dominated environment, and everywhere I look, there's males everywhere, and very few females. And that really is the whole theme of International Women's Day. It's embracing equity. So what does equity mean? Well, the idea is equality. Now, equality is really the destination, and equity is the journey, or how we get there. Different people have different needs, no matter whether women or men, or different races. And equity really is giving the people what they need to get to the same destination. And that means the same pay. When women retire, they retire with 1/5 of the amount of money in their pension pot than men do, 1/5. And that is because why? Can anyone guess? It's because we get paid less. Yes, it's real. The gender pay gap is real, and it sucks. And it sucks that we end up with 1/5 of the amount of money that men do. And I'll tell you something else. If women did get paid the same as men, it would be a win-win. Because at the end of the day, women are bringing home the money to their families. And if they're bringing more money home to their families, then it's also a win for men too. So men, we need you as our allies. We need you. We need allies in terms of females. We need men standing next to us. And that's what embracing equity is all about. So, without further ado, let's start the panel. So first of all, let me just find you here, Claire. Thank you very much for coming. So tell us a little bit about your role at AMF1.
So I am the Chief Information Officer. So that means I look after everything IT. So that means getting into the building with your swipe pass, all of your PCs and computers, everything from software right through to the cameras and all the connectivity at track. So it is quite an end-to-end role, and it's absolutely fundamental, particularly when you start one of those with a computer, not a button.
Is it fair to say that there's a lot more men in IT and technology generally than there are women?
Yeah, very much so. When you do advertise roles, it's very prevalent, the number of females that apply. And it's just that it's an industry that is male-dominated.
Why is that? I mean, you might not even know, but I'm just curious, why would that be?
I'm not so sure. You know, perhaps it's been opportunities previously. I mean, when you think about school, etc., nowadays everybody gets to go on courses and have part of, you know, computing as a curriculum. So perhaps it's just not a preference to younger females.
So what does equity look like to you then in your day-to-day?
Equity to me means giving everybody the same opportunity, and there is a difference between that and equality. We've had some fantastic wins recently in broadening the diversity of our team by recruiting in a different way and considering equity. So 2 examples being part-time roles. Many people out there have caring commitments, whether that's dropping people on the school run, me included. So my calendar says I start my day at 9 o'clock because I have those obligations. And there are other people who actually, you know, might not be able to commit to 40-hour working weeks. So that's fine. So we've adopted effectively a reduced hours contract, so we can actually unlock and secure talent which otherwise would be overlooked. And by that, we've introduced another female to the team, which is great. And the other thing that we are embracing as well is the diversity in how we work, and perhaps making the most minor concessions required to, again, really unlock talent. Some people who perhaps have examples of different ways of working. Some people who have ADHD, for example, want slight dispensation to just sit in a different corner. They just want to actually be able to produce their work in a list rather than something like this. My goodness me, you know, the deliverables are still being cranked out on time, so why wouldn't we just make those slight concessions to give those guys the same opportunities where previously they've felt overlooked?
And a slightly more personal question, have you ever experienced inequality in your career?
I have, yes. I think certainly when I started my career, the world was in a different place, and it's not a particularly nice feeling to have gone through.
And generally speaking, everyone here in the audience, have you ever experienced inequality? And I know some of you are still in college or school, so it doesn't have to be in the workplace, but generally in life. If you've experienced any form of inequality, put your hand up. It's quite a lot. Does anybody want to give us any examples? Put your hands up if you'd like to give us an example of inequality. If not, that's okay too. Do you mind standing up? Did everyone hear me? No, do you mind saying that again, just for the other side?
Fine. Essentially, I was going through the interview process, and I was at the point of the first stage. It was an internal interview. Ticked all the boxes, and essentially they asked me what my plans were.
We know what that means.
Yeah.
I hear you. I was offered a role, fell pregnant, contract never came through because I disclosed it to the employer.
Yeah.
It's real.
And you know, it's not just illegal, but it's just really unfair as well, because there's, you know, only one gender that can give birth, and why should we be held back for that, right?
Mm-hmm. And 6 years old, still no children. So
Right. Well, that too. Does anybody else want to share examples of inequality with us before we dive deep into the panel? Be brave. Okay, cool. No worries. We'll come back to a Q&A later, so just warm up your vocal cords now. And back to Claire. I have one more question for you, actually. Do you have any advice you can give either to the students here or to anybody else in the room?
My advice would be it costs nothing to ask the question. For those panelists who've been, or the people that we've been talking to this morning, this is one point that we've really stressed. Whether it's a case of you're erring on the should I apply, should I not, push it in. You know, should I actually go and ask if I could do I don't have all the skills, but maybe I could do this. Ask the question. The worst response you're going to get is no. Do you know what? It doesn't hinder you. You're not going to get any deterrent whatsoever. Just ask the question and believe in yourself.
And I think it's also about taking control as well. So, for instance, in my case, and for a lot of women, I'm hearing about more and more women that want to get into the financial markets, even from home. They might be stay-at-home mums, or it doesn't matter. But it's about taking control. Take control of your finances, your future, your job path. Just take control of your life.
Sure, and so this is one of the things we've been stressing this morning, is you don't have to have a plan today. You know, let things evolve. Don't put that pressure on yourself. You'll fall into opportunities. You quite like doing a slightly different role to what perhaps you perceived you would start with, and that's perfectly acceptable. And I think a colleague this morning was saying that, we zigzag our way through our careers. So you don't have to have that plan. So if you're a completer-finisher mindset, you'll end up putting pressure on yourself, which you just don't need to do. But you're right, take the opportunities when they're there. If the door gets opened, you should be walking straight through.
Or create your own opportunities.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Cool, all right, thank you, Claire. So moving on to Susie now. Susie is from Cognizant. She is the head of people for the UK and Ireland. So what about you and your journey? Any challenges you faced getting here?
So I'm sure there are many challenges. Oh, sorry, that would help, wouldn't it? So I guess in my career, most of my career I've worked in HR, which is quite a female-dominated profession. So I think some of the challenges that others have faced when you're in a more male-dominated environment, I've been fortunate enough not to experience. That said, there are always challenges, and I think how I've approached that is a bit like Claire said, I think about the opportunity. So I don't think about necessarily where I'm going longer term. I just take the most of every opportunity as it was presented to me. And I think when I left university, in hindsight, I realised that I suffered a bit from imposter syndrome in that I didn't apply for graduate schemes because I didn't think I was bright enough, even though I'd just been to university, because I didn't get as good a grade as others. So when I went into the workforce, I was probably my own worst enemy. But actually, when I got into work, I just seemed to thrive in the environment of learning, being around so many different people, and actually it just really suited me. So it just meant I was able to go through my career just making the most of all the opportunities that were there.
And by the way, imposter syndrome, the other side of the coin is fake it till you make it.
Yes, well, I know that now.
So what about inside Cognizant then? What does equity look like? Have there been any changes that have been made in that regard?
Yeah, there have. And I think for me, when you think about, I read a really interesting thing on the International Women's Day website about equality and equity. And it said that equality is our goal, but actually equity is how we're going to get there. And one of the things we've done at Cognizant, we've done many things, but one of the things we've done is a bit similar to what you said, Claire, and changing the way you select. And the example I'll use is with our graduates. So we assessed our graduates this year on a skills-based assessment. And traditionally, you would tend to assess looking at education, qualifications, experience, and actually those things don't tend to be consistent across all socio-economic groups. So we looked at our eligibility as well when we were looking at what degrees to accept and what universities to target, but then we looked at doing skills-based assessment. And what that meant was we were externally verified to say actually across our graduate cohort, we had the biggest sort of cohort across all of the socio-economic groups. So we managed to make it really accessible across all socio-economic groups. The other thing we've done in our communities is we've got, in Leeds, we've got a bit of a growth in the Leeds area. So what we did was we transferred some of our apprenticeship levy. We've got a huge apprenticeship levy as a big organisation. We transferred it to some smaller employers in the Leeds area. So they could then train digital apprenticeships using our levy. So we're just trying to help our communities as well to get that access. Because we've got as a big global organisation, you know, we can support in that way.
And what would your advice be to some of the young women and the colleagues of AMF1 and AML and everybody else here?
I think my main bit of advice would be don't be the person that puts barriers in your own way. You'll come across plenty of barriers, hopefully not too many, but don't sort of stop yourself before you started by putting those barriers in your own way. And just sort of, you know, a bit like Claire said, there are loads of opportunities, just go for it.
And that leads us nicely onto our next panellist, who is Erin from NetApp, who's very much forged her own path from a very young age. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. So before I introduce myself, I'm going to ask for some participation. Can you put up a hand if you've come from a school background today, just so I know who I'm speaking to? I know we've got some, just, there you go, you can go a wee bit higher. Yeah. AML, AMF1, hands up. I feel like that's more towards the side of the room. Okay, just so I know. So yeah, I am Erin. Nice to meet you all. I'm a project manager in a company called NetApp. We are on the front of the car there. And we are an IT infrastructure and data management company. And I joined as a graduate 2.5 years ago into the grad scheme called the S3 Academy. And I can definitely echo a lot of what I've heard here today in terms of pressures and barriers when you're in school. When I was, I'm going to say around about the age that's here today, I remember feeling this immense pressure of having to decide, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to go to uni? Am I going to get a job and work? And feeling like that pressure to choose something was going to decide the rest of my life. And I mean, I can look back now and you know that's absolutely not the case. But I think I wish that I had heard that when I was slightly younger. And I come from a history background as well, okay? So I actually decided to study history at university, and I've found my way into technology in a path that's actually getting more and more common for people to go into humanities and then move into technology, because you can build up that technical knowledge. The skills you get at uni are just about, other skills in terms of language, essay writing, structuring arguments, all that sort of stuff, and you can learn the technology side of things. And I'd like to think me being here today can prove that that is a path. Choose what you want to do, what's best for you at that time, and you will make your way towards maybe technology, maybe motorsports, hopefully.
What do you think was it that, obviously, to get from studying history to where you are now is quite a leap.
Absolutely, yes.
What do you think it was that took you there?
I'd love to have a really inspirational story for this one, but I think I got to the end of we do 4 years in Scotland, so 4 years of uni. I think it's only 3 years down here, so lucky you. But I got to the end of my 4 years, and I think I had to start thinking a bit more seriously about what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to move down to London, so I knew I wanted to go into that sort of corporate world. And I actually utilised my own network of people, so my mum, my dad, aunties, uncles, their friends, to try and figure out what is it adults actually do, what are all these different jobs that people do, and where can I fit into that. And I decided project management really fitted with my skill set that I already had. And I actually did a master's in project management. My mum's a teacher, so she encourages education, and that felt like the right thing to do at that time. And after that, I got the graduate scheme at NetApp, and technology specifically I chose, honestly, because why not? I thought it was really cool, it looked really interesting, and from a more practical point of view as well, there's so many opportunities. Jobs that exist now were not there 5 or 10 years ago. That's very exciting to me, to know that in however many years' time, as I progress my career, I could be anywhere, and that's what sort of pushed me towards it.
Very inspirational. So what piece of advice would you give to everyone here, and particularly the students?
So this is actually for everyone. I think it will fit for everyone, and it's sort of a two-pronged piece of advice. The first part is that you need to recognize that you are not alone in your career journey. There will be someone that is there that is going to be able to support and champion you. You need to recognize those people, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's a parent, just someone that could mentor you or support you on that journey. That's going to be absolutely critical to help and make a success. The second part of the advice, as absolutely cheesy as it is, you really need to believe in yourself. You need to believe that you can do it, and you deserve to be in that room just as much as anyone else.
Cool, brilliant. Thank you so much. Meghna. So Meghna is our Senior Manager Delivery of Excellence at Cognizant. Welcome to the panel. Tell us a little bit about your career and what you do at Cognizant and how you got there.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see you all here. My name is Meghna Gotoskar. I've done my master's in computer management, and I've been in IT sector for the last 18 years. So when I started my career 18 years ago, I started as a grad, and I played different kinds of roles, from being a tester, a coder, a release manager. And I had an opportunity to take my organization for a quality certification, and that's how I got into delivery quality assurance or delivery excellence. I am the delivery excellence lead for UKI, and my role is that I work very closely with the delivery heads to ensure we deliver best-in-class services to our customers, ensuring our contractual obligations. So as a part of my job, I'll be interacting with different types of engagements, engagement heads, different varieties of projects, accounts, customers. So I think when I talk about equity, and I've seen how my journey has been, equity itself has evolved over a period. So if I can give a very personal example, is like the policies now that are there in our organization, most of our organization towards maternity leave or return to work, it's becoming more and more viable for us to come back and bounce back in our career, which was not the case long time ago. So during my phase, if anyone goes into a maternity phase, either they have to come back to work within 3 months, 4 months, or they had to take a break. But now I think There are a lot of flexibilities in place. So I would advise everyone, like, there are a lot of opportunities there outside where you can come back and bounce back to your career, even though if you've gone through a particular phase or there's some things going on, policies are in place for us to support.
Brilliant. And what sort of sage piece of advice can you share with us that you've picked up along the way?
I have advice both for young students and young professionals. For students, it's very close to me because I have an 18-year-old daughter who's doing computer science first year undergrad. So during her A-levels, I'm sure you all would be in the same phase. When she was, say, applying for her application, first question for her was, why do you want to go to computers? Like, why computers? Why IT? And she had a very clear answer for me, saying that she does digital art. She loves to draw. She said that I want to take digital art, my digital art, and technology together and create something that can give back. So that inspired her. So when you talk about technology, it doesn't mean it's only coding. You can look at your passion. You can look what you're looking at. There are different kinds of roles. We have a project manager here. I'm a delivery excellent. I came from coding, but now I don't do coding. I guide delivery to deliver. So there are various types of roles that are already there in technology, and technology is a part of every way of life now. Everything is technology driven. So I would advise, look at your passion, look at what your career path you think is right for you, and then wisely decide it. And for the young associates who have joined their career or in mid of their career, I would, with my experience, I would suggest that keep small goals for yourself. We play a lot of different roles in our life, but keep some goals, personal goals for yourself, to upskill myself, to have certifications, okay? And another important thing which I learned from my mentor is value networking. Don't just be with your group, with my people with whom I'm comfortable with. Try going out, try meeting like-minded people, thought leaders outside your organization or outside your friend circle. That will help you a long way.
Thank you, Meghna. Now, Jess Hawkins, who is our next panelist, you may or may not be able to tell from what she's wearing, is actually a race driver and also a stunt driver. She forgot to wear her helmet today for the panel, but that's okay. We'll probably hear her better this way. Now, before we kick off with you, Jess, I just want to say that in my industry, for instance, finance, and also race car driving, motor racing, there's a lot of similarities. You have to really comply with regulations. You have to make split-second decisions in order to get the outcome you want. You're very reliant on cutting-edge technology to win the race, basically. And also, it's a lot about people as well, controlling your emotions, to obviously get the outcome you want. So on that note, Jess, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're obviously a minority within what you do. How did you get started?
So I started when I had my first go in karting when I was 7 or 8 years old. It wasn't something that my parents pushed me into. It was genuinely, or I was always really sporty. I was never particularly academic, but I excelled in sports. That's what I was good at. And I was playing golf with my dad one day. My parents were separated since I could remember, so I used to go and play different sports with my dad every weekend. And on this particular weekend, it was golf, but in the distance was a go-kart circuit. I didn't really have any idea what motorsport was up until I saw it. Begged my dad to let me have a go, take me over there. He was extremely reluctant for probably a variety of reasons. And at the time, I was playing football for Reading. That was what I loved doing. But as soon as I had a go in this car, I completely forgot about football. I completely forgot about anything else. Didn't want to play any other sports. All I was interested in is going fast. And my dad probably regretted letting me go in that go-kart for the first time for a long time after, because it cost him a lot more than what he was expecting. But yeah, here I am. It was never supposed to be a career. It was always a bit of fun that then turned into here I am 20 years later. Both my parents very proud, but it hasn't been easy. I think when I first started, I was completely unknowingly one of very few females. I was oblivious. I didn't realize that I was different. It was only probably when I got to maybe 13, 14, 15 did I realize, oh wait, this is different, and I could probably list the amount of females that were racing at the time on one hand that I knew of anyway. That was racing in karting and cars. So yeah, but I feel like maybe I've got a nice story to tell, and I do know that other females have different stories about this, but I would say that at no point in my career did I ever feel like my gender has held me back. What I do think that potentially has been the case now looking back is that it was more difficult to be taken seriously. I think back then, and it is different now, I know it's different now, but back then it was almost as if, oh, despite the great CV, she's a girl, so she'll never make it. Which we are certainly seeing a difference now. There are so many more females within the sport, not only drivers. Obviously, the driving is close to my heart because that's what I do. But there are a lot more females, engineers, mechanics, etc. You know, there is so much more to winning races than just the driver. There's a huge team behind me and other drivers. And I've yesterday actually announced my racing plans or part one of my racing plans for this season. And I think I've seen one of the students.
Which include what?
I'm going to be racing in a championship called Praga UK. It's a prototype championship. It looks like a little LMP3 car or LMP2 car. And it's for university. All of the people behind the team, mechanics, etc., are students. So it's going to be great to give something back. They can probably teach me a thing or two as well. And, you know, this is really, and my point is that this year, obviously this is my first year with the university, but they've got the biggest amount of females on the team that they've ever had. So what we're doing in things like this is giving a platform for the younger generation to look at and something to aspire to. And in the space of 20 years, we've gone from me being able to list on one hand the amount of females to I couldn't name all of them.
Wow, that's a really interesting story. And what about your stunt driving as well? Because obviously you're a minority there as well.
Yeah, it's probably quite a good story actually. So they used to dress men up as women to make them look like the female that they were doubling.
You were in James Bond, a little birdie told me.
Yeah, no, amazing experience, and never did I ever think that would happen. But yeah, they're not allowed to make men look like women anymore. They're not allowed to do that. And if there is a female out there that is able to do the job, why would you? It shouldn't have been a rule that you weren't allowed to do it. Like, come on. I don't really understand that, and it's probably not my place to say why, but yeah, that obviously opened up a lot of doors for myself. And I've had some amazing experiences because of it, but it's annoying that it took, you know, that to say that you're not allowed to do that for it to happen.
Makes you want to do it more when somebody says you're not allowed to do that, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to think that I do it just as well, if not better than the men that used to do it.
So you're saying being a woman has never held you back in your sport?
The real answer to that is that I will never know. But I do think it was more difficult to be taken seriously. I had a great CV as a young kid, great CV. Some of the Formula One drivers don't have the CV from karting from when I was, but for many reasons, and I was never able to, I guess, develop those talents. Don't get me wrong, I've done some incredible things and I've raced amazingly. I'm still very lucky to be racing now, but I really lacked development at a young age, at kind of late teens, that if circumstances were slightly different, maybe it would be different, but that's not to say that I'm not very proud of where I am and where I've got to. I've still not achieved everything that I want to achieve, and I guess it's sometimes a bit of luck, but I think that you can create your own luck sometimes by being in the right place at the right time and never giving up, which is what I've done, always knocked on doors, and it can be relentless sometimes, but yeah, you just got to keep going, and doors will open.
You have to be a certain kind of relentless person to become, you know, a race car driver or sportswoman, sportsman. You know, football, women's football is becoming massive now, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Golf.
It's amazing. Love it.
and it's just so entertaining to watch. So
The football, the only way that I can liken it to is the Lionesses obviously had an incredible year last year. We all know who they are. If we didn't, we do now. And I feel like they are a few years advanced as to where we are in motorsport. So whilst the current Lionesses are absolutely incredible people and they deserve every bit of success that they get, I think not the real hard work, but this hard work for them to allow to have the exposure to do what they did and the resources to do what they did were done by the players and all the people several years ago that weren't getting the recognition for what they were doing. And I feel like motorsport, we're just a little bit behind by a few years, but we're certainly in the right direction.
And the introduction of the new Formula One Women's Series should certainly help, I hope, push that forward.
Yeah, of course. There's the new Formula One Academy, great thing. We've had W Series in previous years as well. And it's all given, the younger generation something to look at. And who knows, maybe when I first started at 8 years old, what if there were other women that didn't see a kart track, that their parents maybe would have presumed that they wouldn't be into it because they were a female. And that just doesn't go for motorsport. That could be a typical women's sport or whatever.
Game changer.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's why I'm passionate about the subject.
Does anybody here, any of our students here today, want to become motorsports racing drivers? Oh, wow, okay, we've got one. I didn't expect that. That's cool.
There's another one there.
Oh, there's two. We've got two. Wow, okay. Is that since today, having seen this and hearing from Jess, or is that something you guys wanted to do beforehand? Can we have a microphone? Can we have a microphone for this young lady?
I do karting myself, so I started when I was 8 as well, and I'm 16 now, and I've always wanted to be a racing driver as well. So Abby is also my idol, and Jess, you're also my idol as well. And I think it's really good to see more females in motorsport and all sports as well that actually really, watch and that.
Wow, very cool. And what about other kind of male-dominated areas? So finance, technology. Any of our female students here are women looking to kind of get into any male-dominated arenas?
I want to go into engineering, which, given my experience at school, I've always been the only girl in my class, and you think of engineering, you think of men working on cars or something similar. To see that there's more women coming into the industry, speaking to people here, it's good.
Does it feel like an obstacle being a woman that wants to go into male-dominated, or do you just don't care? Like, you're just going to do it anyway?
It's a little bit scary, but that's not going to stop me.
Cool. Thank you, and thank you. Jess, just before we move on, can we just have just glean a little bit of advice from you, for all of our students, really?
Just be relentless. The journey's not easy, especially for drivers. The winter is often the most difficult part of the season, putting things together for the year. In the past month, I've retired maybe 5 or 6 times, and that's normal. And I've come back, I get a phone call or a knock on another door and they say yes. And it's relentless, it's not easy. But if you want it enough, you just keep going, keep knocking on those doors, and good things will happen.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, it's Fiona. Now, Fiona is a director, group finance at Aston Martin. So we probably speak the same language, the language of numbers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't think I can promise you stunt driving in James Bond films, but a slightly different story. So I went to university and studied biochemistry. And then, so I basically just picked something that I was interested in. and the course was lots of life sciences, so sort of genetics, pharmacology, immunology. And then I decided to move into something that maybe was a bit broader and could pay some bills. So I went into, sort of similar to your story earlier on, so I went to one of the big 4 accountancy or professional services firms, who basically, they're more than happy to take people from any sort of background, any sort of relevant good degree, and they train you through the accountancy qualification. And that becomes a more sort of business qualification and sort of broadened my experience and background. And so then I worked for one of the big 4 for about 15 years. And then the Aston Martin were one of my clients. And the CFO at the time, so sort of 2018, I was actually just about to go off on maternity leave. And they were about to list the organisation on the stock exchange, and I'd been working with quite a lot of clients when I was at KPMG who'd listed, so I'd worked with DFS and Poundland and sort of helped them through their journey before and after they'd listed. So the CFO of Aston, the Chief Financial Officer of Aston Martin at the time, asked me to have a think about moving over to become their Director of Group Financial Control. So then that was when I moved over, and it's a really great role, yeah, similar to yours. It's so my role, I'm responsible for all the accounting and reporting, tax, treasury, internal controls, and pensions. So just a really, really great role. But I have quite a big team who are responsible for lots of different things across the organisation, and we get to be involved in pretty much everything that happens across the organisation because we have to account for it, we have to report on it. So yeah, I get to work with different people from different backgrounds every day.
And would you say that your job is quite, are you in quite a male-dominated environment day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, I work for an automotive organisation, and inevitably that's a really attractive sector more commonly for men, so we definitely have a higher percentage of men in the organisation. But there's definitely parts of our organisation that it makes no difference who you are, where you're from, and that's certainly my approach whenever I'm recruiting. And my own direct team, I have more than 60% of women in the team, and people from all different diverse backgrounds as well. And generally when I'm recruiting, I'm just thinking, who's the best person for the role? It doesn't matter where they're from, what they look like. I just want the best team and the best people for the role.
And what about equity at Aston Martin then? What does that look like? Is that a work in progress, or have changes been made? Or
Yeah. A work in progress, but great things happening at Aston Martin. I mean, a couple of things. We're when we went into lockdown, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened for my team in terms of flexible working. And I've got an accounts payable team, so the people who sort of pay all the suppliers, the whole team used to be at the office every day, and one of the ladies in my team used to commute sort of 3, sometimes 4 hours round trip to be coming to the office every day. And whenever we went into lockdown and everybody was working from home and we could see that everybody could easily work from home, she was then wondering what she was going to do after lockdown and whether we would come back to the office, and she wasn't necessarily thinking that would work for her lifestyle now. And then the HR team at Aston Martin put in place a really, really good flexible working policy that makes it possible for people to do whatever they need to be able to do. And we've given her back 3 or 4 hours of her day, so she's probably doing a lot more than she used to be able to do previously. So yeah, really good flexible working policy. And we've spent a lot of time last year sort of rolling out and reinvigorating our values. And so there's sort of one guiding single tenet that we that we've been talking to, so no one builds an Aston Martin on their own, which is, that really resonates with me. You do need a whole team of people, and it's not just the engineers and the production line, it's also accountants, tax. Somebody came to us last week in my tax team and asked me, we're going to gift a car for charity. Can you tell me about the tax implications of that? It takes a whole team of people to produce these amazing cars, and so we've sort of reinvigorated our values last year and moving on into this year, so that it's just promoting a really good culture of sort of openness, unity, trust, courage. I
particularly liked when you said that, it doesn't matter what you look like or who you are. If you can do the job best, then you should be doing it. Do you have any advice apart from that to give to our audience today?
Yeah. I mean, maybe sort of similar to some of the other panel. Just try things that scare you a little bit. Sort of take every opportunity that comes your way. Really try, and particularly early on in your career when you're feeling enthusiastic and energetic, take every opportunity that comes your way. And if you're trying something that scares you a little bit, these are the kinds of experiences that help you to grow, develop, and help you to have confidence in what you've been able to do and what you're going to be able to do. Because, if you try something that's a bit scary, then and you make it happen, you're looking back at that and thinking, wow, that was amazing. And I was able to do that, and just helps you grow in confidence through your career, I think.
Thank you. I really want to thank all the panelists here today that have given us such really useful information. I hope that the students here and everyone from Aston Martin Lagonda and Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant F1 will have managed to glean something from today. I mean, it's clear that we have made progress over the years, and it's clear that there are still more challenges ahead of us. But some of the things I'll certainly take away from today are the fact that you should not stand in your own way. You should just do whatever it is you want to do, or at least try to do it. Make sure to find allies wherever you are, whether that be in the form of mentors, support, people to champion you, and most of all, just believe in yourself. Thank you very much.